Alright, hey you guys, it is TsubakiSwagg and I'm coming to you with my review of Tokyo Ghoul Route A, episode 12, the finale! Ken, and this this episode, I have to say this is like one of the most epic endings I've ever seen in my life. And I have to say that I was correct because I had a theory. Everyone kept telling me that Toka was going to be the one that was under the sheet, and it was Heed, which was what I guessed when I first saw it. But I'm sad, but I'm happy that I'm right. Hopefully Heed isn't dead, because from the manga standpoint, we really don't see much of him after that, like after this point. Even that point in the manga, even though it was different, like completely different, even the whole fight with Rima and everything was completely different from what I can tell, just from them just showing little bits and pieces of it. But it's pretty much the same concept. So hopefully Heed is not dead, because I will cry. I really will cry, because Heed was like the only person who still cared about Kaneki. Well, the only person who has cared about him since they were little kids. Like literally from the moment that him and he met, they have bonded. They've been connected. So I mean, it's pretty sad. I feel bad for Kaneki, and just that part hurt my heart so bad. And the way they set it up, they made it look like Kaneki was the one that was bleeding out, but it was actually Heed, and you never would have known literally until he like collapsed. But I realized that it was him when he stood up from the table and couldn't hardly stand up. But just this episode, everything is finally like slowing down. Like there was a helicopter circling and they didn't see anybody. Toka is still running, which she has been doing for like the past 4 or 5 episodes. I want to say 4 episodes. So Toka is still running, and they don't show where Amon is. Shinohara is unconscious, which adds up to what happened in the manga. Iwa is stable, but he's still unconscious too, I believe. They show like Arima looking up at the sky. Suzuya, of course, is like laid up against a building looking sad. There's a whole lot going on. They're trying to pick themselves up now. Akira is like sitting in front of Amon's weapon, but Amon is not around. And then they show like Kaneki when he was in Antiku, and he was having like flashbacks of how like when he first met everyone in Antiku, and he still had his white eye patch with his black hair, and he was looking at everyone, and everybody was interacting with each other, and everything was all hunky-dory. And then he flashes back to now, and Heed is in there, and he's making coffee. So he makes him coffee. He's like, I'm sorry, this is really lousy. And they keep showing like blood hitting the floor. And me personally, I thought that it was from Kaneki, because he had been bleeding earlier. So Kaneki is still standing there, and Heed is just talking to him, and Kaneki really isn't responding. But he was like, I knew all this time that you, like, what happened to you happened. And he was like, you need to stop taking all this stuff on by yourself. But after you started working at Antiku, I saw the way you interacted with everyone, and I was the only one who genuinely felt like I was left out. But I wanted to do something to help in any way, shape, or form. And he stood up, and he like fell down on the ground, and Kaneki caught him. He was like, let's go home. He was like, I want to go home, let's go home. And Kaneki, of course, started crying because he'd like collapsed in his arms, and it was so freaking sad. It hurt my heart so bad watching this episode. I was like, no, not Heed. Heed is the only one, like his only lifelong friend. He can't die this soon. No, I love Heed. Heed is awesome. So after that, we see like he's still looking up at the sky, and they look up and the sky is red, and they don't like, I didn't understand what was going on at first. And then they show Toka running and she stops at Antiku and Antiku's on fire. I still don't understand how that fire started because there was nobody around except for Kaneki and Heat. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. So the building was on fire and Kaneki walked out of the building with Heat under the white sheet, which is what was seen in that picture before Tokyo Ghoul Route A even came out, which was freaking awesome. That picture is beautiful. But for the longest, everybody who I'd seen talk about it said that it was going to be Toka because the figure looks feminine. But it was Heed, and I'm happy and sad at the same time. I'm happy that I actually guessed it right before the show even came out, but I'm sad because I didn't want Heed to die. So, Toka, after all this time, Toka didn't die, and she was saved later on. But it turns out, like I said in last week's episode, that I had a feeling that he was going to die because when What's-His-Face snapped his neck around at him, I knew that there was no way that he would have come out of that unscathed. There's no possible way. So he really did get messed up by that dude, and he might be dead from it, which kind of sucks. So Kaneki was carrying him out the building. Toka was chasing him, or running after him, and they started playing the song. I want to say it's Unraveled. I can't remember what the name of the song is, but the original Tokyo Ghoul opening, but it was like he did a cover of his own song, but the song was still freaking awesome. Oh my god. It made me a little happy. But they show like Kaneki, he's walking with Heat in his arms, like down a street where it's like lined with CCGs, and he's just like he'd look at Heat and smile and then keep walking, and then he would like not necessarily look around, and he looked down at Heat again and smile, and he looked so sad but happy, and it was so sad. But this was probably a pretty epic ending for an anime that I halfway didn't like because it changed so much, but I began to love. So after that, of course, once he got to the end of the road, Arima was there, and then it cut off. Like, that was the end of that one. So it's about to get really interesting. So then, like, they cut away from Kaneki and Arima, and it showed Yomo stopped Toka, and he was like, Mr. Yoshimura gave me one last job to do. And then he just said her name, and she started crying. So they like went away, and she looked back at the wreckage of the burnt down Antiku and saw like this bright like glimmer, and it was one of Yoshimura's cups. So she picked it up and she saved it, which they showed at the end, like after the credits were over, which was awesome. And that was when she opened Ri. So they have a new coffee shop, which is pretty freaking dope. So looking forward to the next couple of seasons. From what I've heard, Tokyo Ghoul, they're going to be doing Tokyo Ghoul Jack, which is Arima's like backstory and all that good stuff. And then they're going to be doing Tokyo Ghoul Ri, which I'm so freaking excited about. I'm so happy. So yeah. I'm fangirling all over the place. It's okay though. Y'all don't mind. So this episode was pretty freaking epic. So I'm guessing when Tokyo Ghoul Ri picks up, is going to pick up with the fight between Kaneki and Arima, and it is about to go down. Like, it is, whew, I'm so ready. I'm ready to see what happens, because I've been waiting so long to see this part animated, but I already know they're going to cut out a lot of stuff, because that always seems to happen with Tokyo Ghoul. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah. So as always, I would love to hear how you guys felt about this episode. How do you feel about the way things turned out? How do you feel about like how everything happened, like just the season as a whole, with he dying? Where do you think Amon is? Just everything in general. How do you think the fight's gonna turn out between Kaneki and Arima? Just everything. This episode was everything. So yeah. So as always, please remember to comment, thumbs up, and subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. And this is TsubakiSwagg saying adios.